This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of December 30th, 2018. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Bryant.
This week we're anticipating the announcement of the 8 coach and general managers in the XFL to be named by discussing possible candidates. This is episode 49. Follow the leader. Hopefully all of you had one hell of a happy holiday and are going into the new year fresh-faced and bushy-eyed, just like Vince sitting right next to me. Hey, Vince, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, Alan, and we are getting ever so close to forming these teams. Once we get some coaches, some general managers, some decision-makers in place, then we're going to be getting the players, and this is just so exciting. 2018 almost a close, getting ready for 2019. This league is really taking shape.
I see you have a list of names right there of possible coaches and general managers in the XFL. Did you carefully think those names out? I think it looks like some of those you just slapped on paper.
I don't know about that. I mean, there are tons of options out there. I mean, I may be sitting with the next coach in this room right now. There's a lot to consider, a lot of factors in place. I mean, what are the odds that they're going to pick somebody on my list? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out who they are.
Well, yeah, we don't have a clue who's being interviewed, because we do know that coaches / general managers have already been reached out to by the XFL, and Oliver Luck. Negotiations and conversations are ongoing. I can tell you that I'm not one of them. I'll tell you that for sure. And I'll also tell you that the names of those coaches are really going to be thrown in the wall today on this show. I know Bryant probably has way different names than I have. Jake, you probably have way different names than I have. And then the listeners who have commented and chimed in, they have different names. But we're all throwing stuff at the wall, and we're going to argue and try to come to a consensus of what the best XFL head coach / general managers are going to be this week. Bryant, how did you put your list together?
Well, basically, being from where I am, I just Googled former UCLA coaches and just kind of put my list together that way. No, in all seriousness,
the old copy and paste. I like it.
No, in all seriousness, I kind of looked at it as a regional thing. I know that the XFL is not really favoring that, but I did look at it a little bit as a regional thing, a little bit of who might still be out there, who's old enough to be a general manager and a coach, right? Got to do both, and who might want to do that has never had the opportunity to do that. So that's a couple of things that I looked at.
How about you, Jake? What went into putting your list together?
Well, I mean, all 4 of us are here, so this is a big episode, right off the bat. I guess I was kind of looking at coaches that are perceived to be on the hot seat in the National Football League. The ones with name recognition, writing them down and coming up with arguments about why they may or may not, be offered a position in the XFL, and, just to speculate, are they possibly too big of names to go to the XFL? Do we think they're going to try to hang around the NFL and hope for a coordinator position or maybe another head coaching gig at a lower team? So that's really what I'm going to bring to the table today.
Well, I like that, Jake. And one of those bits you brought up there, NFL coaches on the hot seat, we'll get into in just a moment. I was thinking about some of the same things there, but also I'm trying to think of who is power hungry, because you're getting the general manager and the head coaching job. You're not just going to get coordinator types for these positions. These are going to be football men who are ready to coach on the field and put an entire team together, and that's going to be a tough job. So it's going to take someone with expertise, someone with experience, and someone who is going to be ready for that $500,000 a year, right, that we know the head coach, general manager is going to get paid. So maybe not one of these NFL head coaches currently on the hot seat. We shall debate and talk about it, though. It's going to be a part of this week's Cover 2.
Going for 2. Go for 2 and the lead.
And remember, everybody, if you want to chime in any time on the show, and we'll play your comments on the show. We're going to read some comments coming up, but you could call in 724-565-4XFL to get in on the XFL fan line. Oliver Luck, guys, was on another podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, the Survive in Advance podcast, talking a lot about the head coaches and the situation there with the XFL, putting together their general manager head coaches. And he said that they're already talking to people and they are waiting till after Black Monday. Now, for those who don't know, Black Monday is the Monday after Week 17 in the NFL, the day where, well, some head coaches in the NFL, Vince, are going to lose their jobs. People will lose their jobs on the Monday after this episode drops.
Yeah, it happens every year. Coaches from failing organizations, they wait till the very last game of the season, then the day after they're given their walking papers, and that's going to happen. It happens every year. Don't be surprised to see 5 to 10 coaches be relieved from their positions.
And not just those coaches, though, because their staffs are going to be looking for work. So names on the staffs as well of some of these coaches on the hot seat are ones we're going to consider, and ones that I'm sure Oliver Luck is going to wait and see what they want to do and what they're going to do. And this is interesting. And one thing, Brian, you brought up, you were looking at regional, jokingly, UCLA coaches. Oliver Luck in that interview said that territorial advantage when it comes to the draft or head coaches really isn't going to be in play for the XFL as much as it was for the AAF. Remember, the AAF, they really went hard on making sure recognizable names in those regions are a part of those teams. It doesn't look like the XFL is going to gear towards that at all. So with that said, some of these coaches who are going to be fired are coaching currently in XFL cities. I don't know. They would definitely be, probably not the wisest. So say Todd Bowles in New York gets fired from the Jets. Jake, do you think that's someone the New York XFL team should consider?
I mean, I don't know if he's been with the Jets long enough where, an XFL franchise would.
He certainly never won with them.
Would relate him to the city. Exactly. Yeah. What have you done for a New York team that you should continue to be heading up a New York team? And I'll just say it now, something that I was thinking about is I think these coaches and GMs they're going to have to be very personable. They're going to have to be almost liaisons for the team, something for the fans to connect with. There's going to have to be a lot of goodwill between the coaches, and the fan relation, I think.
Well, I think that's important, Jake. But as we all know, it's going to be about the quality of the play.
And about winning.
And about winning.
The quality of the play.
The quality of the play. So, you could be you could have the gift of gab, and you could be talking a whole lot of yang and jibber jabber, but you got to get your boys ready to play. And that's going to be the big thing. You got to have a crisp team. You got to put a good product out on the field. Win or lose, for the success of the league, you got to be able to do that. So you can't just have a good front man.
So with that said, does a fired NFL coach in 2018, do they actually have a shot at coaching in the XFL in 2020? Should the XFL want one of these guys on the hot seat that's going to get canned on Monday? Do you think any of those guys would even consider the XFL? Bryant, we'll start with you.
Well, I think, the question should be kind of flipped. Can the XFL get any of those guys? I worry that, with salaries the way they are in the NFL, even a fired head coach could find a job as an offensive coordinator or something in the league, making more than he would as a head coach. The only reason you're going to want to do the head coaching job in the XFL is if you're wanting the notoriety. You guys can help me with that one.
Notoriety.
Thank you very much. And if you want the power, like you mentioned. So there's got to be some give and takes here. I don't think any of the fired coaches, maybe an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, somebody of those that get fired after Monday. then you could probably talk about those head coaches. I don't think so.
Well, let me bring up a name then that's on the hot seat because I think it's interesting. I think we could all agree he's been perpetually on the hot seat, but he really is this year. Marvin Lewis of the Bengals. Vince, am I wrong saying he's on the hot seat?
Yeah, he's
the hottest it's ever been.
I don't know if it's necessarily the hottest it's ever been, but it's always hot, and that's how he likes it.
Marvin Lewis likes sitting on a real hot. He's the kind of guy who'll turn the stove on and just hop right on.
But isn't that organization crazy enough where it would not surprise anybody if they kept him?
Well, that's what they do. That's what they do.
They could have let him go, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but they haven't.
Think of this, though. Say this is finally the year Marvin Lewis goes from Cincinnati. This is a guy who's coached over a decade for a team. He was so recognizable. He was in charge of everything there in Cincinnati. Would he go from all that power, all that responsibility, and all that money to become someone's coordinator or assistant head coach or college ranks, or would he consider a guy like that, you think, the XFL? If you're Marvin Lewis, Vince, what are you doing? It's a big pay decrease, that's for sure.
It's a huge pay decrease, and I'll say that right off the bat. I'd find it, unless it's a real old time coach. I don't see any young personalities that are making NFL head coaching money stepping down to only $500,000 a year in the XFL. That's just not going to happen. Even if they step down and got a coordinator position in the NFL, that's still making several times what an XFL head coach is going to be. But Marvin Lewis, that's an interesting thing, and you really have to get a feel for, this guy, what kind of energy does he have? A change of scenery, probably good for him, but does he want to put up the energy to be an NFL head coach again? Does he want to put up the energy to be a coordinator? The tremendous amount of effort that it would take to be a college coach is tremendous. But then you also got to factor in, what is it going to take to be a head coach in the XFL? What kind of work is that going to require? I would say certainly less than the NFL and college, but how much less? Is it worth the pay decrease to the man?
I think it's going to be a lot of work. It's just going to be different. I don't know if it's going to be a lesser load for a head coach in the XFL than the NFL, because you're talking about also being a general manager. You're talking about also team building from the ground up.
Well, the season is only going to be 10 games long.
It's true. It's not as long of a season.
And during the off season, how much is really going to be done? Yeah, you got to scout some people, but you're gonna have people out there doing that for you.
Yeah, of course, Optimum Scouting's doing that for the league. But going into year two, a lot of questions remain to be asked about what would happen after this season, going into the year two when it comes to scouting, drafts, staffs being retained for coaches. That's a whole nother bag of hammers. But I'm just thinking names like Marvin Lewis, a guy like that, if he's truly done head coaching in the NFL, I don't know if another team's going to give him a shot as a head coach.
Come on.
You think someone would hire Marvin Lewis, an older guy in a league where everybody's hiring young guys, would hire Marvin Lewis?
Of course. You're thinking too big and too whoever, the Jets,
the Browns,
the Browns, maybe.
You bring up a good point, Bryant. I'm kind of with you there. The Bengals, they were never able to really get over the hump, but before he showed up, they were a terrible team.
They were they weren't even on the same surface as a hump. It was way down there.
And I think it's just gotten a little stale there. But one thing I will say is that in a situation like his, you've been at this job for so long, and I think it's going to end up maybe a victim of bad timing that maybe you just want to take a couple years off, before you really jump back into it. And I could see something like that happen with some of these coaches that are going to be fired here. That maybe they don't want to jump right back into it, but maybe the whole year that they're going to have off until the XFL starts in 2020, maybe that's enough.
Of all the names I marked as hot seat names, the only names I see that could maybe, I would give them very slim to none chance, but could maybe be XFL head coaches, and I think would be great gets for the XFL, are Marvin Lewis of the Bengals, Greg Williams, the current interim head coach of the Browns, who's been a coordinator in the NFL forever. I doubt he would ever do it, but he's never going to get a real head coaching job.
You don't think the Browns are going to hire him back?
No.
Even if they win,
chance.
even if they win Sunday, with how good of a finish they had.
Better chance of them hiring Marvin Lewis than
trading coaches.
Yeah. I think Greg Williams and maybe Joe Philbin, because he's older, and you said, like you said, Vince, I think older guys with a lot of experience might be considered. He's the guy who took over for Mike McCarthy, right, with Green Bay.
Yes.
So those are the only names who I give less than 2% chance of being XFL head coaches, but chance nonetheless. Other names on the hot seat I have marked down are Vance Joseph, Todd Bowles, Steve Wilkes, Dirk Cutter, Mike Tomlin, Adam Gase, all guys with way too much left in the NFL tank.
That's a good point there. You know, if you're a young coach, you know, you're going to try to make the money while you can. And if you're an old coach, you know, you've already made a lot of money in your career, but you still want to get involved in the game, and maybe you don't want to do, you know, the long grind of an NFL season or something like that. So you try something different. I'm with you there that maybe an old NFL coach could be lured in here. I didn't really consider that until now.
Jake, with Mike Tomlin on the hot seat with the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you think that Keith Butler, his defensive coordinator, would make a good XFL head coach?
Would he make a good XFL head coach? I would think yes. I'd say yes. You know,
really? He doesn't even know who's playing.
I was about to say,
yeah.
With all the player shuffling that's going to happen in the XFL, I don't think he's the guy. But Mike Tomlin is not on the hot seat.
No. And back to Keith Butler, I think he could make a good XFL coach, but there is 0% chance that is going to happen.
Yeah, you know what, Alan, you're bringing up coaches that are possibly maybe wanting to take time off. I think there's a lot of coaches that have been taking time off and are ready to get back into it and are ready to make the effort that it's going to take to make the XFL succeed. I think that's where you need to head. Black Monday is going to be great, but I really don't think we're going to get really any head coaches signing up with the XFL.
You think there are like dormant volcanoes of coaching ability just sitting out there, haven't been around for a while waiting? Is that like a tease for your list you're going to reveal in a little bit here, Bryant?
I mean, yeah, I could be showing my hand a little bit, but I think that just in general, I think this conversation is great to have, but I don't know if that's where the XFL is really going to be going.
Yeah, I think we all can agree. Highly doubt any guy who's a current head coach in the NFL this year in 2018 will be a head coach in the XFL in 2020. Maybe someone on their staff. Doubt that. There are so many names we're going to get to in a moment. But the second part of our cover, too, we need to get to now, and that's you, all of our crazy football freaks out there who hit us up everywhere on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on the XFL fan line, at XFL Show. You've been hollering, you've been giving us your comments, your questions, your concerns about head coaches and other things. And right now, we are going to go XFL coast to coast so we can hear from you. All right, guys, this week on XFL Coast to Coast, we are going to read some comments instead of playing stuff from the XFL fan line so we could get more in. Remember, the XFL fan line, always open for football fans, 24/7, 365, 724-565 for XFL. First comment we have here, XFL Coast to Coast. Let's go to the A-Train, STL, on Twitter, who said, keep Jeff Fisher out. Of where? Everywhere, all the teams.
Just the whole league.
Definitely St. Louis. You know, St. Louis XFL does not want Jeff Fisher. Bryant, you were.
He doesn't want him. No.
You rooted for teams that have been coached by Jeff Fisher. Do you think he'd be a good coach anywhere in the XFL?
I mean, I rooted for a team that Jeff Fisher coached. I mean, maybe give him another. But what is he? The most? He's lost more games in the NFL than any other coach in history. I mean, that says something. I can't imagine.
You have to be there for an extended period of time,
exactly.
To garner that kind of record. You can't hit a home run if you don't strike out every once in a while.
Yeah, Brett Favre's got the most picks ever, right, Vince? He's a great quarterback.
That's a debate for another show. Jeff Fisher. If you're looking for, like I said, an old NFL coach that still wants to get involved and try something new, I think you could find worse people.
Around the horn then, real quick. highly likely or highly unlikely or maybe Jeff Fisher's an XFL coach in 2020, Vince?
I'd say unlikely.
How about you, Brian?
Unlikely.
How about you, Jake?
I'm going to say unlikely just because he had to make a ton of money. I don't think he needs this.
I'm going to go very likely. I have a feeling it's happening.
What?
Not St. Louis, but I got a good feeling about Jeff.
You think they would give him
But
GM
what does he
control?
need this on his resume for? Does he need this?
The love of the game.
Love of the game, the passion and ability to be in control of an entire team. Why not? Sorry to make you guys sick if you're a St. Louis fan.
Power.
I'm going to say he's not going to be the St. Louis coach. But I have a good feeling about Jeff Fisher. If he's interested, I think they would give him the job anywhere he wanted. It's all up to him, I would say.
I'm not ruling out that the XFL would not consider him, but I don't think he would. I don't think he would accept it.
Yeah, it'd be mostly on him. That's what you're right, Jake.
Yeah, they would need to convince him about why he needs this job.
Yeah, it's a buyer's market if you're Jeff Fisher. That's for sure. All right, we have another comment here, XFL Coast to Coast. Cato Link 641 on YouTube commenting saying, I'm close to DC, and I think the Washington Revolutionaries would be a great team name with George Washington on a boat from the Battle of Trenton in red, white, and blue colors would be a good team logo. Red and white for the jerseys and blue and white for the helmets and pants to help get across the patriotism. XFL. I have a feeling this will work out. What do you think of that idea, Vince?
I like it. The idea for the logo is very interesting. Maybe too busy for a helmet for my taste, but a very
I can get water on a helmet.
But but a very good logo. I could see that put on a banner at the stadium. I'd like that. I think it's an excellent idea. This commenter, he's really got his finger on the pulse of what DC is looking for in an XFL club. I love it.
I don't know. He might get sued by the Revolution in Prince's camp if he used that name. I don't know. They have a lot of copyrights on stuff like that. Jake, what do you think of the Revolutionaries as a team name?
It's very safe, I'll say that, but it definitely fits in with the town and the team they're trying to build. Vince, I don't know if you could fit that whole iconic portrait. You might have to wrap it the whole way around the helmet, but
maybe that's an alternate uniform.
Yeah, that'd be like one of those crazy uniforms Navy wears.
Yeah, I'm all about that.
But if I saw George Washington, kneeling or standing with one leg up on the bow of that boat coming at me, I'd run the other way.
All right, let's go to our next comment. Steve Hines says Chuck Pagano would be a great fit for the XFL. Former Colts head coach. Bryant, what do you think about Chuck Pagano in the XFL? Think there's a chance?
I give it a chance. Are we still doing this whole likely, not likely thing?
Yeah,
I think it's in the middle somewhere. I mean, it's not unlikely, but I don't know if it's very likely. But the man's been through a lot. He's been, he's survived illnesses and things like that. So, and he had to deal with that crazy owner, Irsay, I think is his name, right? So I could see him in the XFL with what he's been through. I'd give him a shot.
I think it's likely too. Like you said, a guy who's taken some time off, and talk about going from working for the worst boss or a crazy boss at least, to being the boss. Maybe Chuck Pagano, if he considered it. That's not Indianapolis head coach money, but like we said, the power, Vince.
Yeah, this is one I'm very intrigued by. He's taken the time off. I think that's key to recharge yourself for a fresh start. And this is a guy that doesn't have a long history as a head coach, only 5 years, but he worked his way up there through the college ranks, a number of different ball clubs, and I think he would be ready. I think this is I don't know if I want to. It's certainly I'm going to say likely. I like this idea.
What about you, Jake?
Well, I think this is all dependent on if they are offered a job.
Oh, absolutely.
In the NFL. But let's just say, for argument's sake, he is not offered a job. I think this guy, he still has name recognition. People are going to be tuning through. They're going to say, hey, I remember seeing him on the sideline of, some team a couple years ago. I think that's a maybe. I would put him in this.
Now let's go to Ovation072 on YouTube, who commented saying, excited to see what the XFL can bring to the St. Louis region. The NFL has been throwing St. Louis around for way too long. Many times we showed up for a team scraping the barrel on the field, which was the way Kroenke wanted it. Quotation, or in parentheses, loser. I will be in the stands for St. Louis XFL. I've already got my XFL Missouri St. Louis shirt in the mail. Let's see those new team names and colors. I will support it for sure. Do fans get a choice, perhaps? They're so jacked in St. Louis for the XFL. Most followers to an XFL team account on social media, guys. Most views on any of our XFL City YouTube posts we put on our own page, St. Louis videos by far. St. Louis super mega hype, Jake, for this team. Do you think they should get a choice in what the team name and colors will be?
No, honestly, I'm going to say no. Not to try to make anyone in the city of St. Louis angry.
What a Grinch!
You could certainly put a poll out there, or ask for some suggestions. But no, this decision should come down to the league.
Well, it shouldn't solely be their choice, but remember, the league is listening. So I could guarantee you that any voice out there will be heard. It may not be implemented, but they are listening. There's no doubt about that.
They can be heard, but I mean, if they put a team in Detroit, I don't think you should name them the Detroit RoboCops just because that's what the fans want.
Well, there's going to be some decisions there. St. Louis, you got to love these guys. It's got to be so heartbreaking for them. Lost the team. For whatever reason, you could debate that all you want, and then. To see their team go to Los Angeles and have a ton of success, that's got to be heartbreaking there. So they are, they got to be all about it. I'm excited for these guys.
You gotta weigh it's all about context, right, Vincent? Right now, there's not much going on in St. Louis, so they got time to watch YouTube videos and to follow things on Twitter. Right now, some of these cities are embarking on playoff adventures in the NFL, so we'll see how the offseason goes. But yeah, I mean, good job, St. Louis. Sure,
that sounds like a Rams fan putting the boots to St. Louis, man. You guys are rude. I think they should. The fans are the authority in the XFL. New faces, new matchups in the world of football. Let them have a say in their team name and colors. And if I'm voting for St. Louis, I like the Stallions name. Take it from the NFL. They never used it, and it looks cool, at least some of the mock-ups we've seen. Last comment we have here, XFL Coast to Coast. Hearing from you, Ryan Denning on Facebook said, bring Tony Dungy back to Tampa Bay. Fat chance, Ryan. No chance.
No, that's not going to happen. I'm sure he'd do an excellent job, but and Brian, you could speak to this very well. This guy has a cushy television gig. He is getting paid millions of dollars to talk for about a half hour, once a week, for only 17 weeks out of the year. He is not gonna get involved in the XFL.
You know who else had that cushiony studio job, Vince, though, and decided that coaching was one thing that he wanted to do? Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards last year had that.
Well, but
he
wants to make
studio.
That's right, but he wants to make difference in young people's lives. He's a leader of men, Herm Edwards, and that's why he's out there and there's making a difference.
I'll end it by saying Herm Edwards won way more games this year than I thought he would. That's
you talk about biggest surprises in all of football. It doesn't matter what level you're talking about. Herm Edwards has got to be right up there. And I'll tell you something right now, I'm not surprised because that guy knows the meaning of the word discipline, and he gave it to everybody out there in Arizona.
All right, well, thanks to everybody who chimed in, XFL Coast to Coast. We love going all across the football world and the football nation there and hearing from you. Remember, the phone number is 724-5654-XFL. Call anytime. It's open. Leave a message. We'll play it, or just leave a comment. We'll read it like we did there. And great suggestions there for some coaches, great ideas, Great. All the love. I can't believe all the love you guys are showing us on our social media pages. We're working hard to cover this league through and through all the way to 2020 and beyond. That's what we're here for. So thanks for interacting with us, and it helps the show just be that much more fun and exciting talking football. But here we go. Time for the main event. I know Jake's been just chomping at the bit to discuss this week's hot read, which is going to be all about, well, names were thrown at the wall. We're going to throw some names out that we think might be considered as XFL coaches legitimately, names we're hoping, and we'll see how crazy this gets and see if we actually land on any of these. This is going to be, I think, Jake, way harder than it was coming up with the cities the XFL would play in.
Well, yeah, there is so many names out there, head coaches, assistant coaches, or even just personalities. That's what I want to talk about, the personalities. Who cares if they're really a good coach? We need to put buses, teeth, and eyeballs on the television.
Well, everybody loves a showman. Everybody loves a showman, and well, we'll probably be talking about some in this week's hot read.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go! Hey, Ric Flair! Ric Flair! Pepper, Clip, Caliber.
Motown, Happy, Jolly, Drunk, Buster, Bird, Tiger. I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think.
B-19! B-19 is
Hey, Seattle! Ryan!
Orange 83!
All right, Black Monday is approaching fast. And here we go. It's time for the XFL to really ramp up their search for head coaches, guys. On New Year's Eve, Black Monday, coaches will become available. Their assistants will become available. There'll be a bunch of coaches joining the ranks of the unemployed and ready to join the XFL. The XFL is expected to announce coach GMs sometime within the next few weeks, maybe in the month of January, we're hoping. What names do you think are being considered? What names do you think should be considered? Let's throw some names out there. I'll take the first go here and say one, definitely not Joey Porter of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's running around the sidelines like a crazy person. I know definitely not him, Vince.
Joey Porter, this is somebody I think coaches of this ilk, I think, are the people that are going to be hired. I did a little bit of research. Position coaches in the NFL probably making around an average, maybe a $500,000 range, which is about where these head coaches are going to be paid in the XFL. So it's not like they're taking any wild swings in salary. I think if you're somebody, maybe like a Joey Porter, that you're not going to be considered as a head coach anytime soon. Although Mike Tomlin, he may promote him to defensive coordinator for all we know. But this is the type of guy that I could see. He doesn't really strike you as a student of the game, more of the motivator type. But I could see something like this happening. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be Joey Porter, though.
You think like a fiery assistant sideline guy of some NFL teams really got a shot at?
I did not say. I think a sideline coach, absolutely. A student type player. If you're not getting your shot to be a coordinator or let alone a head coach, and you want to go out and prove yourself, then maybe you got to go and move it to the XFL for a year or two and make a splash.
You're not going to give somebody that much responsibility on a whim, on a chance. You're going to give him the GM position and the head coaching position in the XFL because he's running around the sidelines and he's great potential. Come on, Vince. No.
Vince, better chance Joey Porter as a coach or a player in the league?
Well, even Joey Porter, guys like him, the guys who are coaches, assistants on teams that are the guys that are screaming at the players and headbutting them and firing. Yeah, hype men. The hype men are not going to be given the job of GM.
I'm not saying it's going to be a hype man, but if you're an offensive coordinator in the NFL making a couple $1 million a year, are you really going to take a pay cut to go be the head coach at an XFL team? I just don't see that happening.
But if you're a quarterback's coach,
okay, well that's what I said. That's what I'm saying. I think not necessarily Joey Porter, but I think a position coach in the NFL with somebody who's going to be targeted.
Yeah, that's very likely, I think. But Joey Porter, guys like him are hype men. They're not position coaches like other guys who I've seen the name thrown out there a lot, and he's the quarterback coach of the Saints, Joe Lombardi, who, I mean, if you have the name Lombardi affiliated with your league, I mean, you're looking pretty good. He actually was involved in the XFL originally on the staff of the Hitmen. Joe Lombardi, I think, the quarterback's coach of the Saints, is someone that the XFL definitely should be considering should he want to, take the leap from the NFL to the XFL. That's a specific position coach there for you, Vince.
Yeah, I like the idea, and like you said, that's somebody who's more involved in scheming and game planning. I could definitely see it.
How about you, Jake? You got a name for us?
Well, I mean, you got all that, the Lombardi name is definitely any league you'd want to, any league would like to have him, but all that Navy, Federal Credit Union money or whatever, I don't know if you want to leave that on the table.
You still get those commercials. I mean,
I guess.
Serviceman, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You could still get this. Somebody on the rundown I'm going to read here. I guess right now we could say this pick is impossible because he already has future duties to uphold. Is Mike Martz. We know he is going to be the head coach of the San Diego Fleet in that other outlaw league, but we don't even know if they're going to be around another year. But again, if Mr. Luck is looking to make these decisions within a month, then this is impossible. But this would be one hell of a gift. And you think if this guy's in the XFL, he has to be on that St. Louis staff, correct?
Oh, absolutely, Jake. I like your thought there. This guy, an excellent offensive mind. And I think that's the one thing that I'm, at least the theme in my list, is creativity. This is a brand new league, a fresh set of rules, new matchups. That's what it's all about. And you got to find a coach that's going to be innovative and take advantage of all that stuff and really build that quality of the play.
If I'm a XFL St. Louis fan, I'm starting one of those GoFundMe, crowds funding, something to buy out Mike Martz's AAF contract and bring him to St. Louis from San Diego. Now, we'll see how the AAF goes. Nobody, I think, is rooting harder against the AAF, besides probably Vince McMahon and Oliver Luck, than the fans of St. Louis, because you got a shot at getting Mike Martz back into town, who they love him. I mean, he created the greatest show on turf. And you brought it up, Vince. Creativity. That's what it's all about in this league. And Mike Martz is one of the most creative offensive football minds we've ever seen. How creative would he get with these new rules? I mean, still a challenge for anybody, even him. But I love the idea. I don't know about... That's the most interesting situation maybe of them all, more than any NFL coach, right? Because he's in the other league, the other spring league.
Well, and that league may not be lasting that long. So he may be looking for a job by the following spring.
Brian, you're sitting back there with your Rolodex right now. I want to know what names you're digging up here, because I think there's going to be a lot to say about these.
Okay, first of all, just on the Mike Martz thing, I kind of stayed quiet during that whole thing because I really don't like to speak in what ifs. That's just not going to happen. But I will say that I'll bring up this name, and I don't know how many rounds of this are going to go, so I'm just going to hit you with one of my top ones from the very beginning. You guys might laugh at me, but I feel like he has the general manager experience. He's not making much right now in the NCAA. He's only making $1 million, so that's not much of a pay cut, at least in terms of devaluing. I'm going with Butch Davis. He's at FIU right now. Has been the head coach in the NFL and has been a GM in the NFL. I think this will be a great fit for the XFL.
Yeah, this guy, he's had lots of success in different areas. I could see that, and is it really worth putting all that work in at FIU, where you can go the XFL? And not have to, travel to, children's living rooms.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Well, I mean, by 2020, the sanctions should be coming in at FIU.
So he'll be looking to get out of Dodge by that point.
If they're announced, well, let's hope Butch Davis isn't getting another school in trouble. But I don't see anybody leaving their current college gig for this.
He's only making $1 million.
As a head, you mean head coaches? You mean?
Unless they're Butch Davis.
He's only making. I mean, it's not a lot of money, Alan. You got to admit that it's not that. I mean, to get a another head coaching him in a professional league. I mean, the guy hasn't coached in a professional league since I want to say 2004. Is that when the Browns let him go?
He's the last coach to bring the Browns to the playoffs, isn't he?
That's a resume right there. Just
was
put
he the
that
head
line
coach
on
in
your
2003?
resume. Yes, he was.
Yes.
All right, then it's him.
That's the one line resume. Cleveland Browns 2 playoffs, and then you're good. I just see he was also the general manager there. Like I said, he's only making $1 million there.
I was waiting for that to be brought up.
Better?
I was waiting for that to be brought up. A current college coach, would they leave their gig? These guys leave those jobs for other college jobs and NFL jobs all the time. To leave college for an XFL job would be awfully risky. But a guy at his age, maybe. You bring up a good one there, Brian. I'm going to say unlikely, but not highly unlikely. I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't expect it. It's a good one. That one came out of nowhere.
I'm going to say likely just because I think the name is
because you brought it up.
Yeah, that too. Of course.
All right, who's next? Should I bring up one here? I got one. We talked. Oh, has Vince brought one?
I have not.
Oh, you go, Vince.
I'll throw a name out here from my list. Jim Leavitt. This guy, currently a positional coach at Oregon, but was the former head coach at the University of South Florida, where he, revolutionized the fake punt. Very creative, this guy. He's been a head coach before. He knows how to run the show. Creative mind. I think he would be somebody, a boisterous, very good innovator for the XFL. I really like Jim Leavitt.
That's a great idea because he was pretty highly coveted by Oregon, right? He was at Colorado. He left, and Jim Leavitt kind of had a resurgence after falling out there at USF. And while he was there, the people forget the old Big East football conference was not too shabby, and out of nowhere, Jim Leavitt brought USF into contention.
The man hasn't had the only head coaching job he's had has been out South Florida. He's been positional coaches with the 49ers, Colorado Buffaloes, and Oregon since then. But he's somebody that could, it's the price is right, I think, for him, especially at his age.
That's very, very interesting, considering that I've followed the Big East, especially when he was a head coach, and he was really, like you said, innovative in terms of trick plays and a fun football game to watch with those early 2000s USF Bulls teams that kind of put that school not on the map, but
he took them to number 2 in the country.
Yeah,
that may be more impressive than the Browns making the playoffs.
Yeah, it's up there. You're right. It's up there.
Only because you brought it up, right, Vince?
Only because Vince brought it up. All right, well, let me bring a really fun one up, and I want to hear Jake's thoughts on Rex Ryan. Now, I'm bringing this one up, and I'm going to start off saying definitely not, but I hope not. But he's a former, Jets head coach. He's one of the most boisterous and recognizable coaches not in the game right now. Jake, what do you think of Rex Ryan?
It may not surprise you, but that name is on my paper that I'm waving right now. Again, I'm going to agree. No chance of leaving that, that air-conditioned studio gig that he's going on right now. But this guy, he would be even better in the old XFL. But he would still be great in this XFL. He's charismatic. Quite frankly, I think he's power hungry. I don't think that he may not admit it, but I think he wants the power. He wants to be the face of this team. You put him in that New York, New Jersey area. I mean, I've never lived there, but I don't think do you think people, former Jets fans loathe him, or they, do they still remember fondly of him? I can't speak to that, but I don't think they want
him as their coach ever again, but I don't, time heals all wounds.
Yeah. Rex Ryan would be a great name, but sadly, I don't think there's any chance of it.
I feel sorry for whatever team would get him as their coach because they're definitely not
Didn't
winning
he
it.
beat?
So unorganized.
Didn't he beat the Patriots in Foxborough in the playoffs with the Jets? I believe that's a pretty big feat.
Playoffs, but I mean, I'm sure.
I think he did. I'm looking it up, but I'm pretty sure he did.
I'm finding a common theme here where all the coaches we're bringing up had just one real bizarre accomplishment that no one else has ever done, and they've been forgotten about. But what about
you
Rob?
Think
Ryan,
about it, Alan.
his brother. I think a better shot at getting him.
Yeah, I'd say so.
When the XFL puts these video packages together of these coaches that they've hired, they got to have these highlights, Alan. You got to think about that, right? They got to have this last coach to bring the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. Beats the Patriots on the road.
The last team
the
to bring the Cleveland football franchise to the playoffs. I don't know if they'll be able to secure all those rights, but
but I think things like that are going to look nice in a video reel.
Yeah,
I think we're on you, Brian. You got another name?
Am I me? Is it me? Okay, I'm bringing this up because he is head coach locally here at the University of UCLA. I am going with Jim Mora Jr. What do you guys think about it? Anybody? Hello?
What's he doing?
I mean, he
now?
coached the Atlanta Falcons. He lost in the NFC Championship.
Is he on TV now? He's on Fox.
I believe it's Fox. Yeah. He had some great years. He did leave UCLA in a bit of hurting for players. I'll tell you that much right now. But he had some successful years. He was very sought after his first 2 seasons, I believe, in the UCLA. He's a name that people will recognize. Definitely, I think that's something that's important. And I think I'm going to put it in the middle. I don't know if it's likely or unlikely, but I think it's a name that they're definitely talking about.
I like your thought there, because I don't hear college programs or NFL clubs, beating down this guy's door to come, help them out. He's been a lot of places. He's got a lot of experience. I don't, certainly wasn't a major success in the college ranks, and wasn't a great success and as an NFL head coach. But he's done a lot of stuff before then. And so, maybe this is, if you're talking about name brand guys, household names, people know who he is. I could see it happening.
I like the idea of it. I mean, obviously, it would be better to get his dad, Jim Mora Sr., but that's not happening. I like Jim Mora Jr. I think that's actually a really likely one. At least from the XFL standpoint, if he was on board, definitely take him on because the guy has all the experience you could ask for sure.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm done.
Maybe I was just going to say he has all the experience, just not the track record in terms of winning. But I think that'd be a fine pick. Would he leave the TV job? A lot of TV guys out there, they're not getting. Rex Ryan's probably getting a good deal right now. He's a big major face on that show. Jim Mora, those low on the totem pole there, right? Who is the Fox main guys? Would that be like Dave Wanstead? Would he be someone to consider, Vince?
Oh, I don't think Coach is coming back. I think Pitt was his last stop. He's more administrative right now than anything, and he's doing a hell of a job on Fox. Definitely. You talk about Fox's college football package. I think it's right up there at the top, mainly because of him and Gus Johnson. You can't really beat that.
Maybe if the XFL could steal both of them, I think it's all.
Oh my goodness! To use just as a commentator and a halftime personality, you can't beat it.
Well, Jake, TV guys are so hard to lure, aren't they? Do you have any non-TV guys for us?
Non-TV guys that you want to lure. Well, I mean, my list, I guess we kind of talked about the, hot seat NFL coaches here. I don't know. I mean, you want to build new personalities. That's one thing. You want to build up new coaches. So it's not like everybody has to be a name, but you still better have some names there.
I think the first season is definitely going to be important to have names.
I think so. You want to have somebody there that you recognize. We ruled out Rex Ryan. We basically ruled out Marvin Lewis. I mean, Doug Marrone, if he's gone, is he going to quickly land another job in the NFL? I mean, do you think there's a
3 years removed from an AFC Championship appearance? I don't see it how it's possible.
You don't think it's going to be difficult for him?
Plus, he could seemingly have any job he wants because, right, he just left the Bills and then, unexpectedly high and dry, and he was hired again. Must be a great interview.
I guess.
Has a lot of friends.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a guy that was the head coach at Syracuse, did absolutely nothing, and then just out of nowhere was hired as an NFL coach.
He must be selling gold or something on the side there, Vince. a great talker.
He could sell ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves or ice to an Eskimo. He's Doug Marrone. I say no chance. Jake, what about Bobby Petrino, Vin?
That's maybe his kind of league. Somebody who is familiar with exciting brands of football. A lot of maybe not necessarily with the the good image this team or this league is trying to put on. I think that might be the main thing stopping him.
Well, if he does get a job, I hope he's introduced riding on a Harley. What about Bruce Arians, who said he'd only come back to coach the Browns? Bryant, Bruce Arians, he's kind of a TV guy now, older, and has had health issues. What kind of chance do you give Bruce Arians in the XFL?
You got to weigh in whether or not his NFL days are over, right? At this point, I think I'm going to say no, not very likely.
Isn't he saying he'd only come back to coach the Browns? Isn't that a rumor?
If you're only going to come back to coach the Browns, your standards aren't that high, so I'd say anything's possible.
What about Scott Milanovic, the first ever draft pick of the original XFL and current interim offensive coordinator of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
That's interesting. Yeah, it would certainly be a pay cut, but, I don't know if he's necessarily going to have a job after this year.
And he's only interim. Even if Doug Marrone stays on, who knows if he keeps him as the OC.
That's a good idea. I like that one.
I think I'd rather have a different LA Extreme quarterback personally. But.
well, that guy's hard to get a hold of nowadays.
He's coaching baseball.
I'm going to throw out a couple ideas here. Yeah, and these are a bit off the wall. These guys are innovators in their game. Years ago, a lot of the stuff that you see nowadays is created because of these guys. First guy I'm going to throw out here, Calvin McGee. This guy was he's currently offensive coordinator, running backs coach for the New Mexico Lobos. This guy helped Rich Rodriguez develop the zone read spread offense. All that stuff you see now with running quarterbacks out of the shotgun, this guy helped do it. He's never been a head coach before, but, utilizing
you coached at West Virginia?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a great chance.
I know. Utilizing new rules.
Discount.
Utilizing new rules and coming up with, different schemes and brands. I think this guy, I think he's got what it takes.
It was a fun offense to watch, as much as I hated watching WVU score on Pitt so much.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out another name here, a hometown person, Walt Harris, a guy who's been out of coaching for a long time, but when he was at the time in the early 2000s, his passing offenses were revolutionary at the time, especially for the college game. He's done a lot of consulting recently. He's getting up there in age, but this is somebody, who still loves the game, and I could see him stepping on somewhere and really being able to command the team. He's got, tons of head coaching experience as well.
All right, why didn't Brian say Dick Vermeil yet? I've been waiting all show. When are we going to start talking Dick Vermeil?
Is it realistic?
I said I don't like to speak in non, in what ifs and what it, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not going to do that much of a drastic estimate. I think it would be great for the city of St. Louis. What did our friend Frank Cusimano said from St. Louis? Make him tell you no. I think you can at least do that. But what if he says yes? I don't know if that's something you really want.
I think
he's been out of the game for so long.
He could drive the pace car in the parade or something. But I don't. He's 80 something. I believe.
What about
80 years old? You know.
What about former greats, players that have little to no coaching experience, but just great name value, like Isaac Bruce. Yeah, someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, great player, no doubt about it. But do these guys? If they've got no coaching experience,
well, Michael Vick is the OC for the AAF Atlanta.
Well,
team.
That's different. He's not the head coach, though.
It's the AAF, he said.
Vince, you can't tell me Eric Dickerson on the sideline with a clipboard would not be a good thing for television.
It would not.
It would be. It would be if he was coaching against Jeff Fisher.
Well, here's the thing. It's about the quality of the play. You got to have somebody that knows what they're doing. I understand, you got to talk them into the building, but you can't just be all right. Then the kickoff happens and then it's a boring game. You can't have that.
Well, this certainly wasn't a boring episode. That's a lot of names. I've got a better understanding of who I think might get offered jobs, but then again, we absolutely have no idea, no inside information on this. Any other names that we absolutely need to get out there before we get out of here? Jake, Brian, Vince?
Nothing that I can think of. Just, quickly, by the time for next week's episode, do you think anybody's going to accept a coaching position
at the end of the first week of the new year?
Do you think it's going to be that quick, or we're going to be going a little longer?
Are we going to go likely, unlikely, highly unlikely? I'm going to say unlikely, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'll say highly unlikely as well.
I'll say just unlikely.
I'm going to say highly. I want to say highly unlikely, and I don't think we're going to see anything until maybe the conclusion of the playoffs.
Well, if it happens right after Black Monday when everybody's talking coaching carousel, I think it might make sense, but we can only wait and find out. Who knows? By the time some of our football freaks are listening to this episode, the XFL might have announced it. Of course, the show drops every football Sunday, 7 a.m. That was our head coaching candidate discussion. If you have any thoughts or ideas on other coaches, let us hear them. I know some of you wanted us to get into Mike McCarthy, the recently fired Packers coach, but I don't know. I don't want to waste too much time on him.
I don't think that's realistic.
Talk about highly unlikely, but we do know that coaches.
You don't want to waste time on Mike McCarthy, but you talk Joey Porter for like 20 minutes. That's fine.
Joey Porter and the like, because him and hype men on the field, they're all over the NFL now. The guys who are headbutting without helmets. They're crazy.
Well, I'll say this. There is a place for Joey Porter in the XFL. It may not be head coaching, but there is a place.
Yeah, it's at an outside linebacker of the LA team. That's where it is.
Well, he probably would be very affected if there's a 1 yard neutral zone rule and there's no 3-point stances. I could definitely see Joey Porter. And Jake, I'm sure you could attest to this, probably in the best shape of his life right now.
Oh, without a doubt, that's something we can all agree on.
Well, if you guys don't have anything left, we're going to wrap this one up. Everybody, remember, you can listen to past episodes anytime on our podcast feed on any podcast app you choose. We're everywhere: Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, and of course, the YouTube channel is on and popping with new content all the time, full episodes. Just go to youtube.com/This Is The XFL Show, the website, thisisthexflshow.com. And remember, call in. We love the voicemails. I mean, we have some callers who call in every week. It's like we're talking to them every week, Jake. And I'm anticipating some of our great callers, like Leo in Massachusetts, who calls in with not only great ideas but good information for us to talk about on the show. We appreciate guys like that, and everybody calling in 724-565-4XFL. Actually, Jake, after the show, you want to listen to a Leo call?
Oh, do not lay off the gas. And if there's anybody out there that's feeling froggy and they want to, put a prototype of those George Washington riding a boat helmets, that's something I would really enjoy seeing.
Oh yeah, the Leos, the Aarons, the Mikes, the Steves calling in. They're all good. They get us talking off the air.
Have your kids do it and send it in to us too. We'll take anything on crayon.
Absolutely. 724-565-4XFL to call in. Open all the time. We're here to talk football with you, and we'll be back with a new full episode next football Sunday at 7 a.m. Until then, for Jake, Bryant, and Vince, I'm Alan. And Vince, tell them one more time.
Remember, they are listening.